a very incoherent frequency pattern in the field. When we're experiencing emotions that have long been metaphorically associated with the word heart, like care, compassion, love, appreciation, those kind of feelings, it produces a different electromagnetic signature in the field, a more coherent signature. So in a sense, where it gets interesting is we are literally broadcasting our emotions to ourselves and then out into space through this electromagnetic field produced by the heart. Now the question becomes, how does my field affect the field of the brain? How does my field affect or is affected by the fields of other people? How does nature interact with the fields produced by the heart? And then ultimately, how does the collective heart field environment created by humanity interact with the fields produced by planet Earth itself? And this is where it gets, as I said earlier, this is where it gets interesting to me, because now we move beyond hardwired biology into something that's got huge implication and goes beyond even the electromagnetic information, but into things like quantum physics, like how far does this field really go? Does it go beyond the fields bound by time and space? This is where it gets exciting and interesting, and it all comes back again to the heart.
So how much research have you been able to do in regards to what you mentioned here last in terms of the effect potentially then on the quantum field, if we can call it that, by the heart?
Well, we're beginning that research now, and so other researchers as well are interested in this, and so we have a great group of scientists that are working on these things. I think the main way we're doing it now is through the Global Coherence Initiative, which is a part of the Institute of Heartmath, which is a science-based initiative designed really to unite many thousands of people all around the world to learn how to improve their own what we call heart coherence. And I know I'm changing concepts a lot here, so listeners, please bear with me. But improve the level of heart-brain interaction within the individuals. Then join that power collectively within the membership of the Global Coherence Initiative, and then begin to do experiments looking at changes that may be occurring in the Earth's fields. Because, see, the Earth produces fields itself, a geomagnetic field and a field called the ionosphere. And so ultimately, we're looking at changes in mass human emotion and how they may be detectable in the Earth's geomagnetic and ionospheric fields. And so this is a beginning stage of showing that really mass human emotion may be having a measurable impact on the Earth itself. And we can talk more about that as the show goes on, but that's a little introduction into how we're beginning to look at the power of emotion, the power of the heart, and its interaction with the Earth itself.
That is very interesting. I think I want to ask you a little bit later more about potential then effects of this, so to speak. But if we talk a little bit more primarily about the heart and so forth here and what you mentioned, do you think that this could be connected with the Kirlian photography, for instance, in terms of measuring the aura? That we have different visual representations of this. Do you think we're talking about the same thing here, or is this something different in terms of the heart?
Well, I think, I don't know a tremendous amount about Kirlian photography, but I think that there's new science coming in. I think Kirlian photography would be a step towards the kind of science that we're going to see in the future. We're going to see new science emerge over time that's going to prove out things that we've been wondering about for a really long time and have had belief in for a very long time. In our case, looking at the power of heart-focused care and intention is a way of maybe looking at and proving scientifically that things like our prayers do count. The meditations that people do really do have an effect. Intuitively, we know this already, and maybe we don't need science to prove it. But when we have science to prove something, it makes it more real. It makes it more tangible. And when it becomes more real, its power increases. The power of belief increases when we have proof that the belief makes a difference. So Kirlian photography, other sciences that are out there, many great things going on, many progressive things going on in the world of science to begin to prove out some of these things that we've believed for thousands of years.
Very interesting. Do you think that intuition and other kind of more elusive subjects, so to speak, could be connected with this as well, the heart?
Yes, definitely. Now, there's one study that we've done. It was a study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, and it was a study looking at what we thought at the time was the precognitive response. Basically, we had test subjects sitting in front of a computer, and the computer was loaded with images, some of which were pleasant, some were very horrific. And the computer was randomly selecting those images. A person sitting in front of the computer would press a button. There'd be a delay, an indeterminate amount of time and delay, and then a picture would emerge. And we had the test subjects wired up from head to toe. We were looking at brainwave activity. We were looking at changes in the heart. We were looking at changes in skin temperature. A variety of things were being measured simultaneously. When the researchers analyzed the data, they were shocked to see some things that they hadn't expected. They saw that in many cases, up to 6 seconds prior to the time the picture actually came on the screen, that the body responded as if the picture was already there. It was the physiological response to the upcoming picture actually began to occur 6 seconds before it actually showed up on the screen. When they analyzed the data more thoroughly and really dug in, this was a very complicated and expensive scientific experiment. When they analyzed the data further, they found out that the first part of our physiology to respond before the picture was actually there was the heart, about 6 seconds out. About a second and a half later, the brain began to respond, and then a second and a half before the picture actually emerged on the screen, the heart and the brain synchronized. But it was the heart that was the first responder. Now, that's amazing to me. So it found out that it really wasn't precognitive because it was not the brain that was responding first, it was the heart. And so what I draw from that, and it's something that I've believed in myself for a long time, is that the heart is really the entry point in our system where spirit, and I'll use spirit as a generic term for something larger than our normal selves, but it's through the heart where spirit actually merges with our day-to-day lives, with our physical consciousness. And it comes in through the heart level. Now, I've experienced this many, many times, and I've believed it for a long time. The experiment that I just mentioned is a step towards showing that that may in fact be the case, that the intuitive response happens through the heart, not just through the brain. Heart and brain work together. They're a powerful combination, but brain function actually is critically dependent upon signals from the heart. So it requires both heart and brain for us to really experience something like intuition. And I believe that the heart plays a key role in all of this.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about, I guess, emotional well-being and also emotional stability, and how you think that this is connected to the heart.
Well, I'm glad you asked about that, because this is the practical reason for Heartmath and for heart-based living and for even doing the scientific research. You see, we have this great gift. It's the ability to feel. We can feel a myriad of emotions. We can feel more emotional textures than any other living thing on this planet. And that's a great, great gift. It turns life from being just a dry, objective experience into a living, visceral, tangible, beautiful experience. But yet emotion is something we haven't learned how to utilize properly. It still is the enemy. People still fear emotion. Emotional responses to all the different things that happen in life take us up and down and all around, from joy one minute to sadness the next, and a lot of different things in between. And it's really through a lack of being able to regulate emotions that we experience some of the things in life that we really don't want to experience. And in these changing times, there's so much coming at us, so many new things, so many new challenges, so much information. It's bombarding us, and our emotional maturity can't keep up with it. We haven't developed the ability yet to utilize our emotions in a way that allow us to ride these waves of change gracefully. Instead, they're beating people around. People are not doing well overall with the speed of change. And you see that so easily when you look across society at all the problems that people are having. So I say that with great compassion. It is through developing the intelligence of the heart that we gain a greater ability to better regulate our emotions. And that does not mean repress emotion. It means to make better emotional choices, to learn how to have emotional reactions, but then to make choices that bring us back to where we want to be more quickly. It allows us to experience emotions I mentioned earlier, like care and compassion and love and appreciation, more easily, And when we are able to do that, and we're able to take the emotional energy that we have and direct it in ways that are positive and productive, that's when we begin to experience a more fulfilling life. It affects everything from our health to our relationships to our performance. And so the most practical approach to application of heart intelligence is learning to use it to better regulate our emotions. That's how we grow spiritually and in many other ways, I think, right now especially, is by learning how to better use our emotional gift.
One question that comes up in connection with this, and you alluded to this a little bit as well, is basically if you think that people are escaping from their emotions at this time, and because we can see this in terms of how medication is being applied and the different, if you will, hormonal, balancing things that people take in order to maybe not only suppress but also keep it in more balanced. And the question then that comes up there is how can emotions then be a choice? Because this is something that for most people just happen, if you know what I mean, Howard.
Well, it's an interesting comment, Heinrich, because that same statement was made to me a number of years ago when I was being interviewed for ABC World News Tonight. After the interview, the interviewer came up to me and said, "That was an amazing statement you just made. I never thought of emotion as a choice. I always thought they were something that happened to me." Now, in the new days, in the new times that we're moving into, the new consciousness, we begin to see that differently. Yes, we will have emotional reactions. Very often, emotion does happen to us from the perceptions of life that we have. But we also have a much greater ability to choose the emotions that we want. And I think one of the higher forms of consciousness is to be able to feel the emotions we want to feel when we want to feel them. And we have this capacity as human beings. It's more readily available now than ever before. It doesn't mean that we won't feel sad sometimes, or that we won't feel angry, or that we won't feel disappointed. But we can learn how to then make choices when we're feeling, say, disappointed, and shift those emotions in a way that put us back in a place that's more productive. It's kind of like diet. We choose what food we want to eat, and we put more emphasis on that than ever before. Many people do, because we know what certain foods do or don't do to our bodies. But we have this emotional diet, which means the emotions that we have running through our system all the time that we just take for granted is that they're there. We can't do anything about them. They're only reactions. In the new consciousness, we don't see it that way. We see, wait a minute, I can stop certain emotions. I can engage in certain emotions. I can begin to paint the picture of life consciously with the emotions that I want to choose and not just be a victim of emotion. This is all part of the newness that's coming in now with the shift. That's part of the evolution of the human species, is a greater ability to utilize our emotions. And that's the difference. And it's a big difference in many ways, but it's not as hard as it sounds.
Do you think that people can utilize the precognitive properties that you mentioned before, meaning that we can, if you will, then brace ourselves when we're confronted with something uncomfortable?
Yeah, we certainly can. I think that one of the ways to use it is to prepare for things. We call it simply PrEP, P-R-E-P, for those international people around the world, PrEP. Prepping is really powerful. It sounds very simple, but when you begin to apply it, it becomes a really powerful tool. And that means this. You mentioned earlier that we are producing, I mentioned, and you asked me about it, the energetic field produced by the heart. So we're constantly producing an energetic field, an energetic field environment. And that field environment does change depending upon what we are feeling emotionally. And we do this 24 hours